Beware the foreign matrix. Now, first, let me preface that I believe that every man should go overseas and find the best place that suits him. The problem I find, though, is that when men escape the matrix, aka America, and move overseas, many men repeat the same behaviors that got them stuck in the American matrix. Only this time, it happens overseas in a new country. Men must be aware that the matrix exists in every country and should be avoided at all costs. I have traveled extensively and read several accounts of men having their lives completely disrupted by not being aware of their actions and getting them into the foreign matrix meat grinder. So I want to go over 3 things that men do that get them in trouble when they go over to different places like Costa Rica, Philippines, Thailand, and stuff like that. The first one is getting married and hooking up with foreign women. Now, I would say about 98% of men make this mistake when they move overseas, and it always ends in disaster. This is because almost always when you move over to places like Philippines, Thailand, Vietnam, and all these places, you're going to meet a woman that's probably like 20 times better than the women you're used to dealing with in your home country. When this happens, men always, or most of the time, become love struck and get married. This is a trap. As a man escaping the matrix, you already have enough money coming in and are financially situated to live the rest of your life in peace. Do not get into a relationship with one of these women or you will regret it. So number 2, when men go to these new countries, what happens is a lot of times they try to project this image like they are Mr. Big Time. Most men, if they are honest, are looking for acceptance and friendship. However, in order to receive the acceptance and friendship that they are lacking in their home country, they try to create a facade that they believe will attract people to them in this foreign country. This is another huge mistake because the only friend that you really need and the only friend that you should be worried about is yourself. When you move to a different country, you want to make sure that you practice introspection. You want to make sure that you can reliably understand your inner motivations. If you do not do so, the shady people in that country will observe your desire to think of yourself as a man, and they will use that to get close to you and take advantage of you. Which leads me to number 3. Buying an expensive house or starting a business because they want to look like some big willy entrepreneur. This is also a big mistake. Most men that move to these places, or a lot of men, they already saved and have enough money to live off of. So why move to another country looking to become some sort of business tycoon and or purchase a huge expensive dwelling to impress other people? When you perform these actions, what actually happens is you become a target. Most of the time, you cannot sell the expensive house if you get into problems, and your business may be targeted for blackmail and extortion. Why put yourself back into the rat race that you already escaped? You already have everything you need to just live a simple, laid-back life, and you will be much happier. And those are the 3 things I noticed a lot of guys get in trouble with. They get over there, they start hooking up with these foreign women. They fall in love and they get taken advantage of. They try to project this image that they're cool and they're looking for friendship in these other places. And then those so-called friends over time may take advantage of them. And then a lot of them, they start these businesses, and some of them may be pretty good, man. You may be making some money, but then they run into issues and problems down the line when they could have just sat back, relaxed, just use the money that they already had saved up and live a nice, simple life. Now I'm going to read you an article. It's called The Phuket Property Nightmare. And in this article, it talks about some foreigners that went over to Thailand and got taken advantage of. So the article starts, the sparkling seas and warm beaches of Phuket are a magnet for sun-seeking holidaymakers and increasingly for foreigners seeking a comfortable and cost-efficient retirement. More than 100,000 foreigners have settled on the island, though some now bitterly regret it. British expat Ian Rance and Irishman Colin Vard are now living almost penniless with their children on the outskirts of Bangkok as they struggle against overwhelming odds to recover properties they bought in Phuket. Both men lost all of their investments through frauds that neither of them imagined were possible. I made my money in England and had enough to retire, I thought. I was looking for a place that was warm, a place that had some rule of law, where I could live in safety and peace, says Rance. He was a professional arbiter from England, I believe, who arrived in Phuket in 2000. When I came to Thailand on a trip from Australia, it sort of seemed to fit the bill. In 2001, Rance met and married a Thai woman called Sudha and went on to have 3 children with her. The prime minister at the time, I can't pronounce the guy's name, had started a program called Thailand Elite, through which he hoped to attract wealthy foreigners to settle by allowing them to own small amounts of land, something not normally permitted under Thai law. Encouraged by this, Rance began investing in property, buying 2 houses, and eventually a restaurant and 2 pieces of land. But the Thailand Elite scheme never took off. So in the end, he did what thousands of other foreigners did. He put the properties either in the name of the company he had already formed to run his consultancy business or in the name of his wife. The family home was in his wife's name, but leased to him on a 30-year lease. The company was nominally Thai-owned, but Rance, as a director, had majority voting rights. Nothing could happen to the company's assets without his approval. He was advised by the local lawyers that this was legally quite safe. But unbeknown to him, in July 2008, Sudha that was his wife, began transferring the properties out of the company. In September, she also removed Rance as the director. On paper, none of this should have been possible. In practice, all she had to do was to forge her husband's signature. The land office in Phuket, where property transfers are formalized, was willing to accept a simple forged power of attorney from Rance to change ownership of properties worth hundreds of thousands of pounds and to cancel his 30-year lease on their home. To change the control of the company, the forged signature had to be notarized by a lawyer, but that presented no problem. Get this. A local lawyer did it willingly without Rance being present. When the BBC confronted the lawyer about this, he admitted the signature was, but claimed it was normal practice. He admitted the signature was, fraudulent it looks like, but claimed it was normal practice in Phuket. The Thai Lawyers Council has since told the BBC that this is not true, that it is a serious violation of their code of conduct. But Rance's attempts to sue the lawyer have gotten nowhere. Now check this out. He only spotted the fraud in July 2010 when checking his company's tax status. He discovered that all 5 properties worth well over £1 million had been stolen. What began then was, he says, a nightmare period for him. His wife ran away. 4 men came to his house and threatened his life if he did not get out of Phuket. His wife phoned him and told him they would kidnap the children if he did not leave the house immediately. Gun crime and murder are not uncommon in Phuket, and Rance decided to flee Bangkok with his 3 young boys. It was a terrible, terrible time. I really had no time thinking I was going to get shot or the kids would be kidnapped. My first thought was to protect the family, try and get some evidence, and get a lawyer on board as quickly as possible. The evidence Rance had amassed was staggering. Document after document shows the same land agent and 2 moneylenders transferring the properties back and forth to his ex-wife in a form of pawnbrokering, where she was in effect borrowing at astronomical rates of interest, using the properties as collateral. Rance believes she was being pressured by relatives to raise the cash. He believes she received only a fraction of the property's value. She was arrested in 2010 and now is serving a 4-year prison sentence. But get this, nothing has happened to any of the other parties linked to the fraud. Rance has filed 9 criminal and civil suits against them. He has had to travel to Phuket for every hearing, paying for himself, a lawyer, and a translator. Hearings which are usually many months apart and sometimes canceled at the last minute. Worse, one of the moneylenders had filed a perjury case against Rance, claiming that he knew about the fraud all along. This has resulted in Rance's passport being confiscated, and he is now obliged to report to the police every month in Phuket. Over 5 years, Rance estimates that he spent the equivalent of, get this, 200,000 pounds. It says here like 300,000 in American dollars on legal fees and other costs relating to the legal battle. The only case he has won resulted in the imprisonment of his ex-wife and the restoration of his company directorship. Yet the same judge ruled that he had no right to sue the moneylenders for the stolen properties because he had not been a director of the company at the time. Imagine that. Rance has hired 5 lawyers, some of whom he says have overcharged him and sometimes deliberately sabotaged his case. He has had to petition the Ministry of Justice to find a lawyer he can trust. This is him talking now. There are many foreigners who have filed cases similar to Ian Rance, says Surin, I can't pronounce the last name, who heads the... Oh, my bad. No, this is actually this other guy. There are many foreigners who have filed cases similar to Ian Rance, says Surin, who heads the Phuket Anti-Corruption Network, a campaign group. In many cases, get this, the lawyers they hire actually work for the other side for more money. The reason most of them lose is because corrupt, incompetent lawyers and the failure of enforcement officers to do their job properly. Okay. Since I started working on this story, a number of foreigners have contacted me to tell me about their experience of different kinds of fraud in Phuket. In some cases, the property deal they have signed up to has not been honored, but only one other case matches Rance's in almost every detail. Now here we go. Colin Vard also invested about £1 million in Phuket after a successful career in Dublin as an author and part owner of a clothing factory. He lost a total of, get this, 8 properties over a similar time period. In some cases, the moneylenders who exploited Rance's wife were involved. So they have like a whole cabal of people doing this stuff. Vard's Thai partner, the mother of his son, has been sentenced to 17 years in prison for the fraud by evidence showing the involvement of several other people has wait but excuse me but in evidence showing the involvement of several other people has been ignored by police. Vard has accused some police officers in Phuket of tampering with his criminal complaints by removing evidence from his files so that the cases fail in court. And he has discovered that the cousin of one police chief actually ended up, get this, he discovered that the cousin of one police chief actually ended up with one of his stolen properties. In desperation, in March this year, Vard went with his 2 children into the central branch of the Thai bank he believes is connected to the fraud and mounted a sit-down protest. He has done the same outside the police headquarters in Bangkok, blocking the traffic. Each time he has been promised a proper investigation. But after 5 years, there has been no visible progress. The Thai police have assured the BBC that they are working on his case. Man, this is not funny, but it's so messed up, The deputy governor in Phuket also promised Vard and the BBC in February that his case would be taken up, but to date, nothing has happened. Ian Rance, this is the first guy, has a new wife now. He didn't learn his lesson. And they have a young baby girl. His main priority, he says, is to provide a proper home for the 4 children and put them through school. With the boy's mother in prison and his funds exhausted, this is a huge challenge. He cannot even consider returning to the UK, guess what? Because of the requirements regarding income and savings, which in his case are now insufficient. Now, excuse me. So if you look back at, what did I put? Let me grab my notes real quick. Let me see. So what I talked about earlier, about not getting caught up in the form matrix. All these guys did what I said that no man should do. And when I was traveling, I saw this happen all the time, man. The guys that did good when they went over to a different place, they didn't hook up with the chicks. They just lived a nice kickback life. They didn't spend a whole bunch of money. They weren't trying to build a whole bunch of businesses. They just kicked back, man. And it was always the guys that didn't observe these 3 rules, man. Hooking up with foreign women, trying to project the image of being the man, and buying expensive houses and starting a business. Those are the 3 dudes that always got caught up. For example, when I went to Costa Rica, there were guys who were over there who were living good, man. They had a happy life. But then there were some guys that all they did was, this is what they would do. They would get up, go down to the bar, drink, and complain about life the whole day. You know what I mean? Because they couldn't find happiness in the smaller things in life. But anyway, let's get back to this article. So basically, just looking at this, what did these guys not do? Both of these guys, what did they do? They got hooked up and married foreign women. Those same women went and tried to steal their properties and take advantage of them. So they broke rule number 1. Rule number 2, they were trying to be the man in a new country by projecting image that they're Mr. Big Time. I believe that they did this too as well. They went over there. They already had enough money. They were cool. All they had to do was retire and live a good life. What'd they do? They started these businesses. They invested in all these properties. And then the people saw that, and they tried to extort the guys. So, right? So, and then number 3, what'd they do? They bought expensive houses and they started businesses over there. Those 2 guys didn't need to start businesses. As soon as the people in the foreign matrix saw that these guys started businesses, they said, you know what? We're going to go out and we're going to take advantage of these guys. And now in a foreign country, the legal system's different. The people are different. The people you thought your friends, you find out that they weren't really your friends. The lawyers were corrupt. Everyone's corrupt. So they know that you're going to lose. So the thing is, I want to reiterate this again. If you go over to different places, whether that be the Caribbean, Thailand, Philippines, and these other places, beware the foreign matrix. Don't get caught up in these scenarios. Observe the 3 rules. Don't get married to the foreign women. Don't project the image like you were Mr. Big Willie. And don't buy expensive houses and start businesses to where you'll become a target. So, yeah, man, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to make this video because I see a lot of times I see this happen to guys when they go overseas. And I just want to say that I still think that men should go overseas and find a place that best suits them. But just stay cognizant of these 3 rules and do not break them. But if you like this video, like, subscribe, support other MGTOW channels, and I will talk to you later.